Republic, there has never been anyone better than him at standing for the principle that the Constitution is not a living and breathing document. It is supposed to be applied as originally meant. And the next president of the United States has to be someone that you can trust and believe in to appoint someone just as good as Scalia, plus there may be at least 2 other vacancies. So you ask Mr. Trump to respond and say that he would, and he says that he would, but the bottom line is if you look at his record over the last 25 or 30 years, on issue after issue, he has not been on our side. Now, if he's changed, we're always looking for converts into the conservative movement. But the bottom line is that you don't have a record there to look at and say, I feel at peace that when Donald Trump is president of the United States, he's going to be firmly on our side on these issues. In fact, very recently, he was still defending Planned Parenthood. He says he's not going to take sides in the Palestinians versus Israel. These are concerning things. And so, yes, I have a doubt about whether Donald Trump, if he becomes president, will replace Justice Scalia with someone just like Justice Scalia.
Mr. Trump.
Well, let me just say, first of all, I had great respect for Justice Scalia. I thought he was terrific. And if you talk about evolving, Ronald Reagan was a somewhat liberal Democrat. Ronald Reagan evolved into a somewhat strong conservative. More importantly, he was a great president, a great president. As far as Planned Parenthood is concerned, I'm pro-life. I'm totally against abortion having to do with Planned Parenthood. But millions and millions of women, cervical cancer, breast cancer, are helped by Planned Parenthood. So you can say whatever you want, but they have millions of women going through Planned Parenthood that are helped greatly. And I wouldn't fund it. I would defund it because of the abortion factor, which they say is 3%. I don't know what percentage it is. They say it's 3%, but I would defund it because I'm pro-life. But millions of women are helped by Planned Parenthood.
Governor Kasich, back to religious liberty. You've been a little bit less emphatic. You've said same-sex couple approaches a cupcake maker. Sell them a cupcake. Can we trust you as much on religious liberty as the rest of these people?
Well, you know, of course. I mean, and look, I was involved in just being a pioneer in a new church. Religious institutions should be able to practice the religion that they believe in. No question and no doubt about it. Now, in regard to same-sex marriage, I don't favor it. I've always favored traditional marriage. But look, the court has ruled, and I've moved on. And what I've said to you is that, look, you know, where does it end? If you're in the business of selling things, if you're not going to sell to somebody you don't agree with, today I'm not going to sell to somebody who's gay, and tomorrow maybe I won't sell to somebody who's divorced. I mean, if you're in the business of commerce, conduct commerce. That's my view. And if you don't agree with their lifestyle, say a prayer for them when they leave and hope they change their behavior. But when it comes to the religious institutions, they are inviolate in my mind. And I would fight for those religious institutions. And look, I've appointed over 100 judges as governor. I even appointed a judge to the Ohio Supreme Court. And you know what they are? They're conservatives. Go check it out. They are conservatives. They don't make the law. They interpret the law. That's all they do. And they stick by the Constitution. So I will do that. But let's just not get so narrow here as to gotcha this or that. I think my position is clear.
Wrap it up with you. Are their positions clear? Are the positions you've heard clear about the First Amendment and the First Freedom?
Well, first of all, let me just add my praise to Justice Scalia. I first met him when we got an honorary degree together a long time ago. Tremendous wit and intellect. As far as religious freedom is concerned, one of the basic tenets of this nation. And I believe that the Constitution protects all of our rights. And it gives people who believe in same-sex marriage the same rights as everybody else. But what we have to remember is, even though everybody has the same rights, nobody gets extra rights. So nobody gets to redefine things for everybody else and then have them have to conform to it. That's unfair. And this is the responsibility of Congress to come back and correct what the Supreme Court has done. That's why we have divided government. And we're going to have to encourage them to act in an appropriate way, or we will lose our religious freedom. And as president, I would go through and I would look at what a person's life has been. What have they done in the past? What kind of judgments have they made? What kind of associations do they have? That will tell you a lot more than an interview will tell you. The fruit salad of their life is what I will look at.
Thank you, Dr. Carson. All of you want to repeal and replace Obamacare, so let's talk about your plans, specific plans to replace it. I want to bring in our chief political correspondent, Dana Bash.
Senator Rubio, you said yesterday right here in Houston that Mr. Trump thinks part of Obamacare is pretty good. So he says he is going to repeal Obamacare. Are you saying that you're worried he won't?
He said he likes the individual mandate portion of it, which I don't believe him. That should be part of it. That should not remain there. I think here's what we need to replace it with. We need to repeal Obamacare completely and replace it with a system that puts Americans in charge of their health care money again. If your employer wants to buy health insurance for you, they can continue to do so from any company in America they want to buy it from. Otherwise, your employers can provide you health care money, tax-free, not treated as income, and you can use that money only for health care, but you can use it to fund health care any way you want. Fully fund a health savings account, the combination of a health savings account or a private plan from any company in any state in the country. And if you don't have that, then you will have a refundable tax credit that provides you health care money to buy your own health care coverage. And that, I think, is a much better approach than Obamacare, which, by the way, isn't just bad for health care, it's bad for our economy. It is a health care law that is basically forcing companies to lay people off, cut people's hours, move people to part-time. It is not just a bad health care law, it is a job-killing law, and I will repeal it as president, and we will replace it with something substantially better for all Americans.
Mr. Trump, Senator Rubio just said that you support the individual mandate.
I agree with that 100%, except pre-existing condition. I would absolutely get rid of Obamacare. We're going to have something much better. But pre-existing conditions, when I'm referring to that, and I was referring to that very strongly on the show with Anderson Cooper, I want to keep pre-existing condition. I think we need it. I think it's a modern age, and I think we have to have it.
Okay, so let's talk about pre-existing conditions. What the insurance companies say is that the only way that they can cover people is to have a mandate requiring everybody purchase health insurance. Are they wrong?
I think they're wrong 100%. What we need, look, the insurance companies take care of the politicians. The insurance companies get what they want. We should have gotten rid of the lines around each state so we can have real competition. We thought that was gone. We thought those lines were going to be gone, and something happened at the last moment where Obamacare got approved, and all of that was thrown out the window. The reason is some of the people in the audience are insurance people and insurance lobbyists and special interests. I'm not going to point to these gentlemen, of course they're part of the problem, other than Ben, in all fairness. And actually the governor too. Let's just talk about these two, okay? Because I don't think the governor has too much to do with this. But we should have gotten rid of the borders. We should have gotten rid of the lines around the state so there's great competition. The insurance companies are making a fortune on every single thing they do. I'm self-funding my campaign. I'm the only one in either party self-funding my campaign. I'm going to do what's right. We have to get rid of the lines around the states so that there's serious competition. And you're going to see, then you're going to see pre-existing conditions and everything else be part of it, but the price will be down and the insurance companies can pay. Right now, they're making a fortune.
But just to be specific here, what you're saying is getting rid of the barriers between states, that is going to solve the problem?
That's going to solve a lot of the problem. And the insurance companies are going to say that. They want to keep it. They say whatever they have to say to keep it the way it is. I know the insurance companies, they're friends of mine. The top guys, they're friends of mine. I shouldn't tell you guys, you'll say it's terrible. I have a conflict of interest. They're friends of mine. There's some right in the audience. One of them was just waving to me. He was laughing and smiling. He's not laughing so much anymore. Hi. But you know what? The insurance companies are making an absolute fortune. Yes, they will keep pre-existing conditions, and that would be a great thing. Get rid of Obamacare. We'll come up with new plans, but we should keep pre-existing conditions.
And I was mentioned in his response, so if I may, about the insurance companies. You may not be aware of this, Donald, because you don't follow this stuff very closely, but here's what happened. When they passed Obamacare, they put a bailout fund in Obamacare. All these lobbyists to keep talking about, they put a bailout fund in the law that would allow public money to be used, taxpayer money, to bail out companies when they lost money. And we led the effort and wiped out that bailout fund. The insurance companies are not in favor of me. They hate that. They're suing now to get that bailout money put back in. Here's what you didn't hear in that answer. And this is important, guys. This is an important thing. What is your plan? I understand the lines around the state, whatever that means. This is not a game where you draw maps around.
You don't know what it is.
What is your plan? What is your plan on health care? You don't have a plan.
The biggest problem he's got is he doesn't know. You know, I watched him melt down 2 weeks ago with Chris Christie. I got to tell you, the biggest problem he's got is he really doesn't know about the lines. The biggest thing we've got, and the reason we have no competition, is because we have lines around the state, and you have
we already mentioned that. I know what that is. But what else is part of your plan? So your only thing is to get rid of the lines around the states. What else is part of your
What
health
the
care plan?
lines around the states mean.
That's your only
and it was
plan.
almost done. No. You know
All right,
what
I'll give him
brings
time
in.
to mind that he
Excuse
can
me.
tell us his plan.
Excuse me. That
What's your
brings
plan?
in competition. When you get rid of the lines, it brings in competition. So instead of having one insurance company taking care of New York or Texas, you'll have many. They'll compete, and it'll be a beautiful thing.
Right, and so that's the only part of the plan? Just the lines, the interstate competition?
The nice part about you'll have many different plans. You'll have competition. You'll have so many different plans.
But now he's repeating himself.
No, I'm not repeating. No. I don't repeat myself. You repeat yourself. You're the guy that repeats himself. I repeat myself every day. They're talking about repeating. I watched him repeat himself 5 times 4 weeks ago. And
I saw
want
you
to tell
repeat yourself 5
it
times
was a
5
meltdown.
seconds ago.
I watched him melt down on the stage like I've never seen anybody.
Let's stay focused on the substance.
I said, well,
Let's talk about your
repeat himself
plan.
every night. It says 5 things. Everyone's dumb.
Senator
He's going to
Rubio.
make America great
Senator
again. We're going to
Rubio.
win, win, win.
Senator
He's
Rubio,
winning in the
please.
polls.
Don't
And
trip.
the lines around the state. Every night. Same thing.
Senator Rubio.
I tell the truth. I tell
Senator
the
Rubio,
truth.
you won't have time to respond. If you
All
could
right.
just let Mr. Trump respond to what
Yeah,
you
he's
just
gonna give us
posed
his
to
plan
him.
now, right?
If
Okay.
you could talk a little bit more about your plan. I know you talked about
No,
the
we're going to have
interstate.
many different plans
you
because
give
there's going
us
to be
specific?
competition.
Say it again.
There's going to be competition. There is going to be competition among all of the states and the insurance companies. They're going to have many, many different plans.
Is there anything else you would like to add to that? as
No,
part of your
there's
plan?
nothing to add. What's to add? What is to add?
Thank you both.
All right.
Governor Kasich, you've said it is, quote, un-American to deny someone health insurance if they have a pre-existing condition. Would you leave the individual mandate in place, requiring all Americans to purchase insurance?
No, I wouldn't, but that doesn't matter when it comes to the issue of pre-existing conditions. You don't want any American to lose their house, everything they've saved because they get sick. Now, I think it is more complicated than what we've heard here tonight. We're actually running significant health reform in my state. I would repeal Obamacare for a variety of reasons. I would take some of the federal resources, combine it with a freed up Medicaid program, which I would send back to the states, and cover the people who are currently the working poor, because we don't want to have tens of millions of Americans losing their health insurance. And then we're driving towards total transparency. If any of you here ever get a hospital bill, it's easier to interpret the Dead Sea Scrolls than to understand your hospital bill. The fact is, what we need is transparency with hospitals and with the providers. And I'll tell you what we will do. We are actually going to make payments to physicians and to hospitals who actually deliver health care with great quality at low prices. We're actually going to make the market work.
Governor, let me just go back to the original question about the individual mandate. In 1994, when you were in Congress, you proposed a plan requiring an individual mandate. So what changed?
Well, Dana, the Heritage Foundation had this position as well. And when I look at it, I don't think it's tenable. And we don't need to do that. Again, I'm telling you that we have a proposal, a plan that we're enacting now that says if you are a hospital or a doctor and you're providing very high quality at lower prices below the midpoint, some charge high, some charge low. If you are below the midpoint, we are going to give you a financial reward for allowing you to provide services that result in high quality for our people at lower prices. That is the way in which we are going to damp down the rising cost of healthcare. Because if you think about your own deductibles today, they're going higher, higher, and higher. And you know what? At some point, people can't afford it. Our plan will work. It uses the market. It uses transparency. It gets the patient in the middle. And guess what? We're actually doing it in my state, the 7th largest state in the country. And if this will go national, we will get our hands on health care where you will know what's going on. We will pay for quality, lower prices, and we will begin to see health care become affordable in America, and where people will also be able to have health insurance even if they have a pre-existing condition. We don't want to throw millions of people out into the cold and not have the health insurance, Dana. So that's really what we're doing. This is not a theory. This is what we are actually doing in our state. We will begin payments next year based on episodes that we have in our lives. If our primary care physicians keep us healthy for a year, with really high quality, guess what? They will get a financial reward. Our primary care physicians need help. They need support. We're losing them. This will allow them to get a reward for doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Carson. Dr. Carson, you have dealt with the sickest of patients. You support covering pre-existing conditions. How would you change Obamacare but maintain that coverage?
Well, first of all, health care is not a right, but I do believe it is a responsibility for a responsible society, and we are that. We spend almost twice as much per capita on health care as many other nations who have actually much better access than we do. I propose a system in which we use health empowerment accounts, which are like a health savings account with no bureaucrats. And we give it to everybody from birth until death. They can pass it on when they die. We pay for it with the same dollars that we pay for traditional health care with. We give people the ability to shift money within their health empowerment account within their family. So if dad's $500 short, mom can give it to him, or cousin or uncle. And it makes every family their own insurance carrier with no middleman. Gives you enormous flexibility. And also, you know, if Uncle Joe is smoking like a chimney, everybody's going to hide his cigarettes because they're all interested in what's going on there. Also, your catastrophic health care is going to cost a lot less money now because the only thing coming out of that is catastrophic health care. So it's like a homeowner's policy with a large deductible versus a homeowner's policy where you want every scratch covered. One costs $1,500 a year, one costs $10,000 a year. You can buy the $1,500 one. That will take care of 75% of the people. The people who are indigent, how do we take care of them now? Medicaid. What's Medicaid budget? Almost $500 billion. Almost 80 million people participate, which is way too many, and that'll get a lot better when we fix the economy, which I hope we get a chance to talk about. But do the math, over $5,000 for each man, woman, and child, and they will have a lot more flexibility. What could you buy with that? A concierge practice. And you can still have thousands of dollars left over. And let me just finish, because I don't get to talk that much. And, you have the money that's left over to buy your catastrophic insurance, but most importantly, we give them a menu just like we do on Medicare Part C, and they have the choices that will allow them not only to have catastrophic health care, but drug care and everything else. It will be such a good program that nobody will want Obamacare after that, and that's probably the best way to do it, although if anybody still did, I would still defund it.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Carson. Let's talk about the economy. Let's talk about the economy.
Does everyone get to address Obamacare but me?
I want to move on, but there'll be plenty of opportunities for you to address it.
It's kind of an issue.
I know you do it. And, all right, go ahead.
Thank you.
How do you get that extra time, Cruz? You're very good at it.
You know, this is another issue on which Donald and I have sharp disagreements. On Planned Parenthood, he thinks Planned Parenthood is wonderful. I would instruct the Department of Justice to investigate them and prosecute any and all criminal violations. On Obamacare, both Donald and I say we want to end it, but for very different reasons. I want to end it because it goes too far, it's killed millions of jobs, and it's hurting people's health care. Donald wants to end it because he says it doesn't go nearly far enough. And what was amazing in that exchange that was missing is for decades, Donald has been advocating socialized medicine. What he said is the government should pay for everyone's health care. And in fact, a couple of debates ago, he said, if you don't support socialized health care, you're heartless. Now, liberal Democrats have been saying that for years. Now, let me tell you, if you're a small business owner, Donald Trump's socialized medicine, putting the government in charge of your health care, would kill more jobs than Obamacare. And if you're elderly, the results of socialized medicine in every country on earth where it's been implemented has been rationing, has been the government saying, no, you don't get that hip replacement, you don't get that knee replacement. The government is in charge of your health care. I'll tell you this, as president,
Senator,
I will repeal every word of Obamacare.
Thank you. Mr. Trump, I do not want socialized medicine, just so you understand. He goes around saying, oh, he wants it. I do not want socialized medicine. I do agree with him that it's going to be a disaster, Obamacare, for the economy. In 2017, it's going to be impossible for us to pay for it if you look at what's going on. That's why it has to be repealed, for a lot of reasons. Number one, it doesn't work. Number two, premiums. You look at premiums going up 25, 35, even 45% and more. We have to get rid of Obamacare. It is going to destroy our economy completely. Our economy is not doing well. It is going to destroy our economy greatly. And on that, I agree.
Donald, true or false, you said the government should pay for everyone's health care.
That's false.
You've never said that.
No, I said it worked in a couple of countries.
But you've never stood on this debate stage and said it works great in Canada and Scotland, we should do it here. Did you say if you want people to die on the streets, if you don't support socialized health care, you have no heart? Did you say you're a liberal on health care?
If I'm president.
Have you said you're a liberal on health care?
Let me talk.
Talk away. Explain your plan, please.
My plan is very simple. I will not, we're going to have private health care. But I will not allow people to die on the sidewalks and the streets of our country if I'm president. You may let it, and you may be fine with it.
The government pay
I'm
for
not
everyone's
fine
health
with
care?
it. We are going to take
Yes
those
or
people,
no?
and
Just
they're going
answer
to
the question.
excuse me. We are going to take those people, and those people are going to be serviced by doctors and hospitals. We're going to make great deals on it, but we're not going to let them die in the streets.
Who pays for it?
Can I
Who's
just
controlling?
clarify something?
Gentlemen,
No, I want to clarify something.
Gentlemen,
This
please,
is a
I want to
Republican
move on.
debate, right?
I want to talk
Because
about
that attack
the
on letting
economy.
people die on the
Well,
streets
this is
of
a
the government
critical
doesn't
answer. He
support
would
health
answer.
care.
The government would
Hey,
pay for
Democrats
all of
here.
you refusing to answer that
Call it
question.
what you want. You know what? Call it what you want.
It's a yes or no.
Call it what you want. People are not going to be dying.
All
on
of
the
you have
sidewalks.
agreed, all of you have agreed to the rules. I want to move on. We're talking about the economy right now. Mr. Trump, you want to cut taxes more than President Ronald Reagan did, more than President George W. Bush did. The Independent Tax Foundation says the cost to the country of your proposal would be about $10 trillion, and that takes into account the economic growth that would emerge from your proposed tax cuts. How would you cut $10 trillion over 10 years, but make sure the country isn't saddled with even more debt?
Because the country will become a dynamic economy. It will be dynamic again. If you look at what's going on, we have the highest taxes anywhere in the world. We pay more business tax, we pay more personal tax, we have the highest taxes in the world. It's shutting off our economy, it's shutting off our country. We have trillions of dollars outside that we can't get in. Yes, we will do my tax plan and it will be great. We will have a dynamic economy again.
What specific cuts will you make to pay for that tax cut?
We're going to make many cuts in business. We're going to get rid of so many different things. Department of Education, Common Core is out. We're going local. Have to go local. Environmental protection. We waste all of this money. We're going to bring that back to the states. And we're going to have other many things. We are going to cut many of the agencies. We will balance our budget, and we will be dynamic again.
Mr. Trump, if you eliminate completely the Department of Education as you have proposed, that's about $68 billion. If you eliminate the Environmental Protection Agency, that's about $8 billion. That's about $76 billion for those two agencies. The current deficit this year is $544 billion. Where are you going to come up with the money?
Waste, fraud, and abuse all over the place. Waste, fraud, and abuse. You look at what's happening with Social Security. You look at what's happening with every agency. Waste, fraud, and abuse. We will cut so much, your head will spin.
Governor Kasich, when you were in Congress, you were chairman of the Budget Committee. You helped craft the last balanced budget the United States had. Can Mr. Trump's plan work?
Well, I think it takes three things, Wolf, and I've done it. I mean, we got the budget balanced, we cut the capital gains tax. You see, in order to get this economy moving again, you have to grow the economy and you have to restrain the spending. And when I was chairman, we cut that capital gains tax and we instituted a significant program to get the balance. We had the balanced budget 4 years in a row, had to take on every interest group in Washington, every single one of them. And we paid down $500 billion of the national debt. And why do you do it? Because you want job growth. If you don't have regulatory reform, common sense regulations, reasonable tax cuts, which I have, and a fiscal plan, you won't get there. You will never be able to do it. I inherited an $8 billion hole in Ohio. I have common sense regulations. I have tax cuts, the biggest of any governor in the country. And we have a fiscal plan. And it's not always cutting, it's innovating, it's producing a better product at frankly a lower price. Now we have a $2 billion surplus, our credit is strong, our pensions are strong, And look, I've got a plan to take to Washington, and I will have it there in the first 100 days, and it will include shipping welfare, education, transportation, Medicaid, and job training back to us so we can begin in the states to be the laboratories of innovation. I've done it. I've done it in Washington, 4 years of balanced budgets. No one can even believe it happened. I've done it in Ohio. We're growing. The jobs are up and people are having opportunity. And I will go back to Washington and do it again for the American people. I promise you that. Within the first 100 days, we will have the plan to get this done.
Thank you, Governor. Speaking of tax, I just want to say, and I'm a big fan of the governor, but they also struck oil. Okay, so that helped Ohio a lot.
Let me just talk about that, because I know that Donald believes the energy industry is important, so do I. But of the over 400,000 jobs that we've created in the state, we think maybe 15,000 are connected to this industry because it's early stage. See, what we've done in Ohio and what a president needs to do is to have a cabinet and a whole operation that's jobs friendly. We have diversified our economy. We do have energy. We have medical devices. We have financial services. We have IT. We just got Amazon and their cloud computing in the Midwest. You know why it's happening? Because we're balanced budgets. We're strong. We're job friendly. We don't raise their taxes. And if we have a president that does that in America, we will get the economic growth. And that is what this country needs. Jobs, jobs, and jobs. Period.
Mr. Trump. Yesterday, the last Republican presidential nominee, Mitt Romney, called on you to release your back tax returns and said, and I'm quoting him now, there is good reason to believe there is a bombshell in them. Romney said either you're not as wealthy as you say you are, said maybe you haven't paid the kind of taxes we would expect you to pay, or you haven't been giving the money to veterans or disabled people. Are any of those accusations that he has leveled true?
First of all, let me just explain. I was the first one to file a financial disclosure form, almost 100 pages. You don't learn anything about somebody's wealth with a tax return. You learn it from statements. I filed, which shows that I'm worth over $10 million. I built a great company with very little debt. People were shocked. People in the back, the reporters, they were shocked when they went down. And I filed it on time. I didn't ask for 5 45-day extensions, which I would have been entitled to. So as far as that's concerned, I filed it, and that's where you find out what kind of a company. You don't learn anything from a tax return. I will say this. Mitt Romney looked like a fool when he delayed and delayed and delayed, and Harry Reid baited him so beautifully. And Mitt Romney didn't file his return until September 21st of 2012, about a month and a half before the election. And it cost him bigly. As far as my return, I want to file it, except for many years, I've been audited every year. 12 years or something like that. Every year they audit me. Nobody gets audited. I have friends that are very wealthy people. They never get audited. I get audited every year. I will absolutely give my return, but I'm being audited now for 2 or 3 years, so I can't do it until the audit is finished, obviously, and I think people would understand that.
Hugh, go ahead. Mr. Trump.
Are you going to ask anybody else? Everything comes from me.
Mr. Trump.
I know I'm good for the ratings, but it's a little bit ridiculous.
No, but Mr. Trump, a year ago, you told me on my radio show, the audio and the transcript are out there on YouTube, that you would release your tax return. Are you going back on your commitment?
First of all, very few people listen to your radio show. That's the good news. Let me just tell you, which happens to be true. Check out the ratings. Look, let me just tell you something. I want to release my tax return, but I can't release it while I'm under an audit. We're under a routine audit. I've had it for years. I get audited. And obviously, if I'm being audited, I'm not going to release a return. As soon as the audit is done, I love it.
Okay, so, Senator Rubio, Mitt Romney also called upon you to release your tax returns. Your campaign said last spring that you would release your returns that you had not previously released, and you'd say come out any day momentarily. When are we going to see your returns?
Yeah, tomorrow or Saturday, in fact, is our plan to release them, and there's nothing really that interesting in them, so I have no problem releasing them. And luckily, I'm not being audited this year, or last year for that matter. But I want to, this is my time. I want to go back to this question you asked about the debt. This is an important issue. It's a huge issue. Okay, in less than 5 years, 83% of our entire budget will be made up of Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and the interest on the debt. That means only 17% of our budget will be for things like the military or the Department of Education or environmental protection issues. You cannot balance our budget unless you deal with that 83%, which is why I've been repeatedly talking about, since my time running for the Senate in Florida, where there are a lot of people like my mother that depend on Social Security and Medicare, on the need to save those programs by reforming the way they work for future generations. And I think the longer we take to do this, the closer we are going to get to a debt crisis. And Wolf, you did not get an answer to your question. This debt issue is real. The next president of the United States will not be able to serve 4 to 8 years without dealing with the national debt. It is not a question of if, it is a question of when we have a debt crisis. And we should not leave the stage here tonight without hearing a serious answer from every single one of us about how we're going to bring the national debt under control once and for all.
Thank you, Senator Rubio, but I'm being fair to all of the candidates. Senator Cruz, Tuesday is 5 days away. Why haven't voters seen your 2012, 2013, and 2014 returns?
So I've released 5 years of tax returns already. We will have 2 more years available tomorrow. And I would note that this question really goes, Donald says he's being audited. Well, I would think that would underscore the need to release those returns. If he has said something that was false and that an audit is going to find was fraudulent, the voters need to know. And listen, people across this country, we recognize our country's in crisis. The most important question is how do we win the general election in November 2016? And roughly 65% of Republicans think Donald is not the right candidate to go against Hillary Clinton. Now, part of the reason he's in the last 10 polls on Real Clear Politics, he's lost to Hillary on 8 of them. In the last 10 polls on Real Clear Politics, I either tied or beat Hillary. And this is an example. The mainstream media is laying off Donald now. They're going to pick apart his taxes. They're going to pick apart his business deals. And let's take, for example, one of Hillary's great vulnerabilities, the corruption at the Clinton Foundation. The fact that she had CEOs and foreign companies giving her money while she was Secretary of State. The next Republican nominee needs to be able to make that case against Hillary. And if Donald tried to do it, Hillary would turn to Donald and say, but gosh, Donald, you gave $100,000 to the Clinton Foundation. I even went to your wedding. He can't prosecute the case against Hillary, and we can't risk another 4 years of these failed Obama policies by nominating someone who loses to Hillary Clinton in November.
At the beginning, I said openly to everybody that I contribute to many, many politicians, both Republican and Democrat. And I have over the years. I'm a businessman. I have over the years. And I sort of have to laugh